Hello, my name is Chris Joseph. Um, welcome to my channel slash podcast. I guess you could say. Um, this is basically my intro. Basically, just getting into um, how did I find Christ? How did I give my life to Jesus Christ? How did I get into this kingdom? How did I come to worship the one and true God? So we're gonna just a little bit about myself. I'm 21 years old. I'm married. Me and my wife produced a beautiful baby named Lennox Sage Joseph, my beautiful daughter. So we're just gonna flash back and we're gonna start from basically the beginning. So I'm originally from Haiti. I was born in Haiti, Port-au-Prince, and since the day I was born, my father basically left to come to the United States, where he wanted to come here to find a better life, while I stayed back in Haiti. I'm from the Caribbean islands, and from the day I was born, my mother, my real mother, actually, I don't know if she had a situation with my father, but she ended up giving me to my grandmother. So since the day I was born, I never knew who my real mother was. My grandmother was basically the first woman in my life that I actually called mother. And then once I became 3 years old, once I got to 3 years old, my aunt, my father's sister, decided to take me in because obviously my grandmother was a little bit old, so she wasn't going to be able to take care of me, especially as a child. And so just my early stages of life was already, started off kind of bad. But thanks to God, because even though I didn't have a real mom, my real mother, God still placed people in my life that played the role of a mother for me. So I never lacked anything. And so since the beginning, I always had everything that I needed. So flash forward, growing up, I was pretty much raised in a Christian household. My aunt slash mom and my godmother, they always prayed every single day. And growing up in a Christian household, growing up in Haiti, for those that are from the Caribbean islands, you are either Christian, Catholic, or you do voodoo. That's basically the whole three lines. There's no other religions. It's not like over here where everybody is basically, oh, you could be this, you could be that. No, you either did this or you did that. And for those that don't know what voodoo is, it's basically like witchcraft, basically worshiping demonic spirits. And I remember at a young age where I was living at next door to me, when I was like 3 years old, I used to have like these bad dreams, and it wasn't until I got older where my aunt told me what those dreams actually like was and where they came from. But the people that used to live next door to us were actually they practiced witchcraft and voodoo, and so I used to like have these dreams where at their house, on top of their house, I used to see like this spirit, like this dark spirit, and it wasn't like, you could tell the difference from a dream where you could tell if it's something good or if it's something bad. But I literally used to like I just used to have this fear. I'm like, yo, this is scary. I used to wake up crying to my aunt, and she would pray for me. And it wasn't until I got older where she was like, yeah, like those people that were living next door to us, they did not like us because obviously they was my family was full blown Christians, and obviously they did not like us. And so one thing that someone told me was the devil does not care if your baby is cute to come after them. And so even at a young age, like I was like demonic attacks, all these things was just in my life. And for those that don't know, in Haiti in January 12th, 2010, an earthquake happened in Port-au-Prince, which was the main city that I was living in, and my school broke down. Everybody was living basically outside. We were sleeping in tents. The White House in my country was broken down, and I remember just we lived on the mountains because Haiti is pretty much a mountainous country. We lived on the mountains, and I remember this guy coming off the mountains, and his skin is completely torn off. And I'm pretty sure he probably passed away, but his skin was completely torn off, and he was just literally just walking out of just conscious. His consciousness was just he was just walking. He didn't stop. He didn't look around. He wasn't crying. He didn't feel anything. He was just walking. And I remember him just looking on the floor where his skin was at and taking up his skin and trying to put it back together. He just, like, it was weird. It was the craziest time of my entire life where I experienced something so crazy. But after the earthquake happened in my country, my father, who was already living in America, decided that it just was not going to be safe for a kid like me to be in that type of environment where I didn't even have a school to go to. And so he said, "Yeah, you're gonna come to America and live with me." And at the time, he had married to my stepmother, and they had a child together, which was my brother, and we were 6 months apart. If you live in a Haitian household, that's pretty normal. But and for those that don't know, like if you're from a different country, like where, you don't have everything, when you hear like, hey, I'm about to go to America, like people start looking at you like, oh my goodness, this kid's about to get the best time of his life. And so growing up, like anytime it came to like America, like I automatically thought like, yo, I'm about to be living it up. Like everything's about to be beautiful. When you coming from a different country, like everybody makes it like seem like, okay, America, this is where you want to be at, this is where all the opportunities come from, which essentially it is. But like, like you just growing up in a different country where not everything is just there for you, you just like, okay, I'm about to start living it up. And so coming to America, coming from Haiti where it's not like cities and stuff like that, where big buildings and stuff like that. My dad flew me to New York, and he lived in Philadelphia, but the plane dropped me to New York, and he came and picked me up. And I remember just seeing the big cities, the lights, the attractions, everything, like mad people outside. I'm like, yeah, like different types of people. This was the first time where I didn't see all black people for the first time of my entire life. And so I met my stepmother, my brother, who we didn't know each other for the whole time I was living in Haiti, but as soon as we met each other, man, we clicked it off like this. So everything was just perfect. Our family was perfect. I was living with my father. I was going to school. And then out of nowhere, I remember my stepmom picking me up from school. And she goes to me and my brother, she goes, "Me and your dad are getting a divorce. And what was worse about that situation was she told us, she was like, hey, uh, my brother was going to go with her and I was going to have to go with my father because obviously, court wise, my father was not going to be the one that was going to take me and basically, my father was the one that was going to take me and take care of me because that was not my real mother. And so I remember just going, you know what I mean? Just, and even before this, me and my brother, we used to go through my dad's laptop and stuff like that. And we used to like see him talking to like different women and different girls and stuff like that. And we never even took like, you know what I mean? We didn't really care about it. We used to show our moms and stuff like that to tell her like, hey, who is this person? But, she used to be like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. And the whole time, just being so young, we didn't know like what exactly was going on. And so I remember just like, man, like my dad had gotten divorced, and I remember just going through this like depression. My brother, my best friend in the whole world, we were like two peas in a pod. Even though I didn't know him for my entire life, as soon as we met each other, like the click, the bond that we had with each other, we were only 6 months apart. So the bond that we had with each other was something that, nobody could even, we fought each other, but at the same time we loved each other. So, I went through a big depression, and living with my father, man, was not tough. I remember, you know, in seventh grade, I had gotten my report card, and I didn't realize that my depression, all the stuff that was going on in my life, was probably the reason why I wasn't doing so good in school. But my father, I came back home, my report card, and I think I had straight C's. I think I had like four C's and like a couple A's and B's, but I showed my father a report card with all C's, and I remember seeing my father's hands lay across my face, and he smacks me because I wasn't doing as good in school. And for those that are raised from a Caribbean household, like we all know, like if you come home with C's on your report card in a Caribbean household, Like, your parents think that you're a murderer, a thief, a stealer. They think that you're about to be selling drugs on a corner on the side. They think that you're the worst person on the planet. I remember my dad just telling me, like, yeah, you want to be just like those guys who hangs on the streets and sell drugs and stand there like they don't have any family members. And so growing up as a kid, I'm like 10, 11 years old, and this is the type of thing that I'm hearing from my father, and I'm just like, dang, I gotta do better. I gotta find my way. And I remember just, oh my goodness, just like going through it. But that also kind of made me grow up to be kind of tough. But we're gonna kind of fast forward to when I was 15 years old in high school, which is basically where I gave my life to Jesus. And how it happened was I was completely alone. I remember I was in Philadelphia, where I was living in Marshall, and at the time, me and my brother, me and my I had obviously my father ended up meeting somebody else, and me and my stepbrother, we had shared a room. It was a bunk bed, and I was at the bottom. And I remember I was watching a lot of these different pastors. I was watching Bishop T.D. Jakes. I was watching Michael Todd at the time. I was watching Stephen Furtick. I was watching a lot of these preachers that, you know what I mean, were amazing. I was watching Billy Graham, and I remember I was laying on my bed, and the pastor, he says, tomorrow is not promised. He said, tomorrow's not promised. He said, to be absent from this place means you have to go and you have to go talk to God, which means you have to get judged by God. And so he said, if you don't know who Jesus is, if you do not know who God is, that means that you're going to be away from him. That means you're going to be absent from the presence of God. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. Like, once you really think about that, to be absent from God means you're away from him. On this planet that we live in, the reason why we have breath in our bodies and that we're able to wake up in the morning is simply because God has his provision on us, which means that God is the reason why we're able to wake up in the morning and be able to give glory. God is the reason why we're able to wake up and have breath in our body, to have strength. And so when you think about being in hell, when you think about being away from God in darkness, think about, like, just your worst day where you woke up and you were like sick. Like, do you know what that feels like? Where you wake up and you're just like, man, I feel like I'm about to die. And so to be outside of the presence of God, which means that now you're in a place of darkness. You're in a place where you don't feel like yourself. You're in a place where you're sick. You're in a place where you're in total darkness. And so I was like, no, I don't want this for my life. I don't want to live like this. And growing up as well, I had struggled with pornography, and especially at 15 years old, when you start hearing about the goodness of God, you're like, man, I don't think I'm perfect to really, you know, I don't think I'm worthy enough to even be in the presence of somebody like that. Like, I'm still living in my flesh, and I don't even know if I could let go of this thing, because, like, this is the only thing that gives me the rush. Like, my sins were something that I used to hold on to because it made me feel like this is who I am. And so just hearing, like just, if you're away from God, like, hearing all of those things, the pastor, he said, if anybody wants to give their lives to Christ, he said, just say these words. And I remember, after I said them, I remember after I said that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is God, that Jesus, he died for us on the cross, and, you know, and realizing, like, all these things that he's done for us, I remember I started tearing up and crying. And obviously there's many different religions. There's Muslim, there's Buddha, but when you look into the Bible, like, the greatest thing that you can do to show somebody that you love them is sacrificing your own life. So, so if anyone loves their wife, if anyone loves their daughter, if anyone loves their family so much, and somebody comes in with a weapon, and your first thoughts or your first thing is you cover your family and you die for them, that is the greatest way to show somebody that you love them. And so Jesus died for you and for me. And honestly, no other religion has where anyone else has died for somebody. And so understanding that Jesus literally died for me and your sins, and one man who was fully man and fully God took on sin himself and died for me and you, I don't think I could ever just look at that and just be like, yeah, that's, you know what I mean? That he just did that for no reason. And I know there's a lot of these new age descriptions of Jesus where they think that Jesus didn't die for you, but the Bible clearly proves that he died for us and that he is who he says he is. And so, giving my life to Christ, everything in my life just started becoming more peaceful. Depression, all of these things that I was going through was just getting better and better. I ended up getting married, meeting the love of my life. And, that's just the story about me. I'm not here to make myself seem like I had the worst childhood or anything like that, but I'm thankful that God always had a provision on my life, even though, most of the time I should have been dead. I should have been dead in 2010 when the earthquake happened and everybody's house was breaking down, but mine still stayed up. I should have died because even when I was going through my depression, sometimes I wanted to think about suicidal thoughts, but growing up in a Caribbean household, you already know when you're raised up in a Christian household, like killing yourself, that's like the worst thing you could do. So even though I didn't think of that like that, but I was pretty much close to it. But that's my testimony. That's basically how I came to give my life to Jesus. And, you know, welcome to this channel where we talk about all things related to Christ, this walk of with Christ. It's not easy. It's not something that, it's a cross that we got to take up. And no, none of us is perfect. At the end of the day, Peter, who literally was living with Jesus physically, still denied him 3 times. Noah was a drunk. Moses had speech problems. So none of us is too bad enough to be in the presence of God. None of us is not worthy enough to be in his presence. And so take up your cross. And so give your life to him. And trust me, you will have perfect peace. That's why John chapter 16 going to 33, when Jesus was about to leave and he was about to give us the Holy Spirit, Jesus said that in this world is going to offer you peace, but in me, you will have perfect peace. And that's why he also goes to saying, like, that's why he also goes to saying, in this world you're going to have tribulations, but I already have overcome the world. And so there's nothing for you to even have to worry about. And so just understanding these things that God has provided us, and there's no reason why I would want to worship anything else. I'm living this lifestyle. The word Christian means Christ-like. And so this is a lifestyle. Everybody wants to think of this as just a religion, but this is a lifestyle. This is the style that I'm going to live in for the rest of my entire life. I don't live by culture. I don't live by the certain things that people are doing anymore, because we are a new creation. And so, that's my testimony. Thank y'all so much for watching this. It's pretty short. Just, it's simple. Thank you so much. Bye.